Namaste. So, by her grace, the writings of Sri Aurobindo, all the volumes, have been completed during this year. Between 150th and 151st birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo. And now we are preparing to approach the mother's 150th birth anniversary. So, much greater preparation is needed. So, as a one of the things we plan to take up is the writings of the mother, collected works of the mother. It is a mystery that while Sri Aurobindo is so widely known, read, discussed, there are seminars, conferences, very little, strangely, comparatively very little, is known of the mother's writings, and much less is discussed or spoken about her writings, even in study circles. I'm not speaking of all the study circles, they're all kind, but generally speaking, you will see seminars on the life divine, seminars on Upanishads. One reason could be that people have read both and find Sri Aurobindo difficult, so there is a need to talk about it. But most of the time, what I have observed through my travels and interaction with people, people are not aware of the richness, the wealth, the profundity, the depth of the mother's writings and her conversations. As we know that Sri Aurobindo had the experience of nirvana when he is 36, and the mother in one of her first, or rather the third prayer in prayers and meditations, she says that the Englishman who asked me whether I had realized the divine or not, and she says I had definitively realized the divine. She is 34, but the experience has come even earlier. Not only that, if you look at her life's profile, at the age of 5, Sri Aurobindo himself says that the mother was inwardly above the human even as a child. So at the age of 5, she would sit and suddenly enter into a kind of trance, and her mother asked, Divine Mother's physical mother asked her, you are sitting as if the burden of the whole world is on your head, and she said, indeed, yes. So she would experience a light descending into her brain, seeking to enter, and that became one of her favorite pastimes. She was playing that game as a 5-year-old. And then between the age of 9 and 11, this is also documented in her prayers and meditations, she would experience some kind of an touch of the cosmic consciousness, where she would experience that her robe is becoming wide and she is rising high in the sky. And all those who are seeking help, seeking mercy, healing, something or the other, as human beings we can only seek, and they are feeling relieved touching her robe. And that was an activity most enjoyable to her. Much later we'll read, a wide self-giving was his native act. So she used to enjoy her nights when in her body's sleep she would go out. And during that phase she would meet many of the masters. She doesn't mention their names, but about one she says with whom she formed a constant relationship. And she used to call him Krishna. And in 1904, she sees this Krishna face to face, as if, manifested. And she thought it's an apparition, because it's a Greek apparition, because she had never seen what a dhoti is like. And for the first time, she felt like bowing. She bowed down before that Krishna of her visions. And then, yes, we know that 1914, when she comes and saw Sri Aurobindo, she realized that this is the Krishna of my visions, and she bowed at his bowed to him, and a magic moment, a new creation seed was sown, which would continue to. Now it has grown from a seed into a mighty trunk of a tree with many branches, flowers, fruits, and leaves, and one day this tree will spread over the whole world. Not in the way we understand that everybody will be converted. That's not what Sri Aurobindo says. But definitely the new creation will begin to stir the hearts of mankind, and a charm and sweetness open life's closed doors, and beauty conquer the resisting world, as Sri Aurobindo says. Before coming to Sri Aurobindo says she was already an adept in the Buddhist yoga, where one of her friends, Alexandra David Neal, she had come and met her in the ashram. And there are some experiences of her, even a communication with Sakyamuni Buddha, very clearly point out that she already had experienced the Buddhist yoga to whatever level it could take. It's there, including the Mahayana, that where she is given the command to turn toward the earth, and she turns toward the earth and sees the children locked in somber struggle. All this experience is there in Mother's writings. She had already realized the teaching of the Gita, and she was given a book, very poorly translated book in French, and the person who had given her was Krishna Prem, that is Roland Nixon's Guru Ma's husband. So he had given the book on the Gita. It was a poor translation, but she instantly got the key that Krishna is the immanent divine, and she, within a month, she had realized that yoga of the Gita. And at one place she speaks about it very beautifully and passingly. She had already realized the Kundalini yoga. So she speaks about it much later in one of her conversations, where somebody speaks about Raja Yoga of Patanjali, and she says, yes, I know, I had a book, somebody had given me Patanjali's Raj Yoga by Swami Vivekananda. It's a wonderful book. And she had realized all that experience of the Kundalini. She was an adept in occultism, where in her sojourn in Algeria with Max Theon, she had learned how to separate not just 7 bodies or 5 bodies as the Upanishads say, but 12 bodies through the 12 chakras, right from feet. Now she mentions all this casually. She could have just in each of these experiences started a path. So all this she had already realized before coming there. And she says very laughingly, not in response to a question. She otherwise doesn't speak about it. And how she had actually experienced dying, and yet to come back after dying, even when the cord is cut. Twice she had this experience while she was before coming to Pondicherry. And many others of which we do not know, because always what is spoken is one thing and what is held back is much more. That's why I often say, please don't go by just what Sri Aurobindo is saying. There's a lot more he has not said, and which would probably not, what he has written is itself mind-blowing, and probably this would be heart-shattering, and all our limits will be broken if he were to reveal all that he has seen, foreseen. So when after doing all this, in 1912 we see that the mother lays down a program of the future. Now who will lay down the program of the future? Unless someone who is clear that this is the mission. So she lays down a program of the future which is so similar to a letter of Sri Aurobindo written in 1912 or 13 to Motilal Roy, where he says, this is my work. So in that work he writes 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we read the mother's writings that she has, this is the work of the future, you will see such a striking similarity. And then no wonder Sri Aurobindo says that she was moving toward the same goal as myself. And at one place he even says that someone said that, Sri Aurobindo had halted in his yoga. He said that's not true now. That may have been true before the mother's coming. Say between 1910 to 1914, though at 1912 he had the experience of Parabrahman. So he says that may be true, but after the mother's coming, he covered 10 years of yoga within a year's time. And he speaks about the mother having entered through to the supermind through the front door. All these experiences are there in prayers and meditations. So, and after all this, that the beauty of it, she comes and all this she puts at Sri Aurobindo's feet. Lord, all this is yours, take it. So, we know that when she met Sri Aurobindo, she writes in a diary about something about what she experienced. Her experience was very simple and very profound, that he whom I saw yesterday is here upon earth. That Sri Aurobindo's presence, the presence she saw instantly that he is the Lord who has taken a human body. And his presence is enough. It was the certitude that the life divine or that work will be accomplished, even if the whole world is plunged in the densest ignorance. What does Sri Aurobindo say? He doesn't write. Sri Aurobindo is always, so Barinda asked him, his brother, that what did you experience? So he says, one, Mira is born free. And she says that in one of her writings, that nobody can make me speak on behalf of any organization or any institution or anything. And I belong to no country, no continent. She says that very clearly, even before coming to Pondicherry. This is 1912. She says, I speak and do what the Lord asked me to do, and its basis is only truth, nothing else. So she's born free. She says that nobody can compel her. So this is the supreme freedom to act only according to the will of the Lord. And the second thing that Sri Aurobindo says is that for the first time I saw surrender from the highest heights to the smallest cells of the body being manifested in her. And what does he say? Then I knew that yes, the hour has come for the life divine to be established. Same thing, both of them. Experience, seeing each other, that the hour for life divine to manifest has come. And still, before we enter, just a little aside. So when they met, what did they talk? What they must have discussed? How is France? How is the weather doing there? Did she ask, how is the situation in India? That time, all under the British rule. The mother notes a conversation. What a conversation. There is no verbal exchange there. She says that when I met him, the one question that I had in my mind was, will it happen this time? Means for ages they've been working towards it. And Sri Aurobindo understands what will happen. So he says, yes, and she says the power of the word. She saw the supermind touch this earth. And of course it went back, but his yes had that kind of power. And then of course a new history, or shall I say history of the future begins. So we can see mother's life in these 3 or 4 main segments. One is till 1920, before her definitive coming. She meets Sri Aurobindo in 1914, then goes back because of the war. So she stays for about 9 months, from March 30th to February 22nd. Then she has to go back. And then she comes back in 1920 definitively. So we can say till 1920. And then from 1920 to 1950, when they were together physically. And the way she describes that period, and they both had their own share of work for the new creation. And then from 1950 to 1956, a short period when the mother has to, all by herself, physically so to say, carry on this work and ensure that supermind descends, manifests, because this is the work Sri Aurobindo has given her to do. And then 56 to 73, and all this is documented in different ways in her writings and her conversations. So with this very brief background, now we come to her writings. So they are not just writings, they are writings and conversations. So right now there are about 18 volumes of collected works of the mother, and I have a bird whispering me that a 19th volume is likely to come. So, so in these 18 volumes, 9 are conversations and 9 are notes, essays, articles, things which are written. So both formats. So at the very outset, if I may say so, there is no comparison between the two writings, because Sri Aurobindo's writings come from above and the mother as if comes from deep within. So they are on 2 different modes of working. But definitely conversational mode in many ways has an advantage. Because it's whenever you see something is written, it carries a ring of impersonality because it's coming from the universe. Whereas conversation is more personal. So in mother's writings, we will see this play of the divine personally with humanity upon earth. So that itself makes it something very special. Because see, impersonal writings are there of earlier also, like the Gita has a personal touch, but primarily Arjun will ask a question or a or two questions, and then Shri Krishna, from there a cascade comes. But personal touch which we see in mother's conversations. Again, Sri Aurobindo's letters have a personal touch, but unfortunately, most of the letters we don't know what people asked. And still, once again, there is in writing one kind of mode. But in conversation, there is a very interesting play. You can experience the divine play, where sometimes she laughs, sometimes she smiles, sometimes she makes a gesture. All of this is so beautiful. So we have her conversations as well as writings in these 18 volumes, 9 and 9. Roughly they are distributed in this way. Volume 1 is for those who want to take up the yoga of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, I would say it is the volume that must be read. There is no doubt about it, and why we will come to it when we discuss the volume. Each volume has its own specialty. But basically, it's Mother's prayers and meditations. They have that power. They show us the way. They give us the guidance. And we will see the Mother's Maheshwari, Mahalakshmi, Mahakali, Mahasaraswati aspects in that. And we'll also see the Divine Mother, how she is connecting with the earth, her mission, her work. So that's a thing apart. So prayers and meditation, in many ways, I can say that the same truths which are there in Savitri, you'll find there. And in many ways, it carries the same kind of vibratory power. So prayers and meditations, original is in French. So those who know French, of course, is wonderful. But even the English translation is fairly good. There are some prayers here and there, but otherwise, some of the prayers have been translated by Sri Aurobindo himself. So this is volume 1, a must companion guide. I would say it should be part of our, wherever we are traveling, prayers and meditation, the Mother and Savitri should be our constant companion. Okay, then volume 2 is all that she has written or spoken before 1920. So that's titled as Words of Long Ago. Very interesting. Some of her prayers, some of her stories, some adapted stories from somewhere else. So they are very beautiful. Everything is wonderful. Volume 3 is a very special volume where we have conversations from 1929 to 1931. And the occasion of 1929 is an English woman who asked her questions. But there were other people also present. And she gave the answers. And 1931 is when a group of disciples, they would ask her. And the setting was that she would go for a drive. I assume Auroville, where they would sit, and there was no Auroville, of course, where they would sit and they would ask questions and she would reply. The beauty of this volume is those who want to know Sri Aurobindo's Yoga, one volume, then it is volume 3, 1929 to 1931. It's a compact thing where most of the things that about the integral yoga are given there. But it also has along with it Dhammapada. So just as 1929 to 1931 is the first writing, we may say, or conversations of the Mother, Dhammapada is many ways the last of the playground talks, 57, 58. But the Mother considered it important because having taught so much to us, given so much, she realized that I am giving them PhD and super PhD things. These people don't know how to even control the mind. These people is all of us. It's not about those people. They don't know how to speak. They don't know how to have goodwill in the heart. So she took up the Dhammapada and said its importance lies in teaching, in preparing the background for the yoga. And of course, she was already an adept in the Buddhist yoga. And just as Sri Aurobindo, when he writes on the Gita, the Upanishad and the Veda, he opens a door, he picks up those things which connect it to the future. So we see that when she speaks on the Dhammapad, she picks up those things which connect us with the future. So even for those who have followed the Buddhist way, they'll find it very fascinating. So this is volume 3. Then volume 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 8, or rather I would say up to 7. So these are set of conversations held in the playground where she would take up some book of Sri Aurobindo. few chapters and take up a passage, and there would be commentary based on question answers. She would read a passage, or somebody would read a passage, and then a question will be asked. Question may or may not be apparently directly connected to the passage being read. So that started from 1951. And again, we see that she had seen by then that humanity is not ready. That's why Sri Aurobindo had to withdraw. So she took us all on a crash course. So those 6 years, 51 to 56. So they are, each volume is like 51, then 53, 54, 55, 56. Now 56 is volume 8. This is very special. Why? Because this is the year of supramental manifestation. So we see again something new coming in the mother's writing, which, I'm not being partial to the mother, but which we don't find in Sri Aurobindo's writing, because the yoga of transformation actually begins. And she gives us all the details about the transformation. It's there in Sri Aurobindo's last writings, 49, supramental manifestation. You will see those hints coming out more and more. And in the mother's conversations, volume 8 and volume 9, we'll see a lot more of what transformation is, its process. So again, we see that in certain ways, it's not like one can only read Sri Aurobindo and not read the mother, it's okay. No, there are things in the mother's writing which we will find them unique. Then volume 9 is again 57, 58. And volume 10 is a commentary on Sri Aurobindo's thoughts and aphorisms. Most of them are dated later on. So again, the mother's the aphorisms are much earlier, but commentaries are dated later on. So again, we see a lot coming about the new creation. And volume 11. All these volumes relate from volume 8 to volume 11. We'll see a lot of hints about the new creation, not just hints and suggestions, but the path, the way, and things which happen. How do we proceed? How exactly we can prepare ourselves? Because many things changed subsequent to the supramental manifestation. And I'll give just one example. The other day in one of the groups, somebody had asked this question. So before 56, when we read, before 20 in the Arya, so we'll read, Sri Aurobindo describes higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, overmind, supermind. So a question was asked to the mother that now that the supermind is there already, so do we have to go through these? You'll see elaborate discussions on forums. What is intuitive mind? What is illumined mind? She says, I don't see why now the same process has to be applied, because supermind is truth consciousness. It will use anything and everything. So all that, it's not that it is important. It will manifest in strange ways. So we can't once again that thing that you have to climb through these steps and stairs. Because now supermind is active. And it is going to mold. It's working on matter itself to open the doors to these experiences and realizations. So this is something very unique, which we see in her writings. So this volume 11, 10 and 9 are also interesting in another way. So apart from these 18 volumes, there is a set of writings of the mother, 13 volumes of the mother's agenda as it's known. So that makes 18 plus 13, that's 31 volumes. But these 13 volumes have an interesting history. So the history is that there was one of the disciples who used to be present, and the mother had given the name Satprem to this French disciple. He was Bernard, but she had given the name Satprem, and he would go and whatever she would speak, he would record. Now I don't know the history whether he had, he had taken permission from the mother and he was recording. So when the question came about publishing it, so mother had asked that whatever is being recorded, it should be heard and edited. Edited means that what should come and what should not come, because there were many things which are very personal. See, now this was not a playground talk. It's one-to-one. Mother, this disciple has done this. Oh, I know about this. Now imagine, somebody speaks a word about some disciple. Say, I know he lies. But she has said other things also about that disciple, which you will not find there. So, because of this reason, because of many other reasons, many things which if one reads, one finds it, She had said that this should not be, first of all, she said that this should not be published because till 30 years, man is not yet ready even to read it. But portions of it can be published after approval by Nalinida and Andre, her son, physical son Andre. So in volume 11, you'll find it. It used to be serialized in the Bulletin of Education, Shobindo International Center's Bulletin of Education, which used to be published. So you will see that these question and answers came, these conversations came. It's like a compressed, in one volume, compressed agenda. Also volume 10, because in agenda you also have these thoughts and aphorisms and mother's commentary. And in volume 9, some of these are there also in agenda, but that's 57, 58 is kept in the background largely. So volume 10 and 11 is in many ways a compressed version of the agenda. But now one will say, but that is 13 volumes, this only 2 volumes. Quite true. So agenda has many more things. But that time, both Nalinida and Andre felt it is not needed. Whatever is necessary, they had given, and mother had given them the mandate. But then after 73, something happened. People wanted the tapes because they are not somebody's personal property. In ashram, say when you click a photograph of the mother, it's not your property, it is the mother's. Similarly, whatever mother has spoken, I may record it, but I can't say that this is my property. So the problem was there, very simple problem, that the tapes were asked to be handed over. And because these tapes contain many personal remarks about certain people, 1%, but then those 1% can be, so... And there was a tussle between, because 73 mother had withdrawn physically, so there was a tussle between the then authorities or the trustees and Sat Prem. He had the tapes, he refused to give. And that created a kind of deadlock, if I may say so, till one day it seems, as I have heard and as is well known actually, there was so much of mutual suspicion, confusion, that he disappeared with the tapes. So when he disappeared with the tapes, now there is another set of tapes which is available, as I am told. But then Nalinida and Andre had already approved whatever had to be published. So they decided not to publish anything more. But on the other hand, the tapes which were taken away started getting published. So as far as ashram is concerned, it took that stand, rightly or wrongly, it's up to them, that that set of volumes called as the agenda, we are not going to sell it. We don't know. Their logic was very simple. We don't know what is there in the conversation and what is not there. And it is a fact that even that is not an actual verbal reproduction in toto. There are things which have not been reproduced. So it is edited. So we don't know what is edited. So the ashram stand in its own way is pretty correct, I would say. And at the same time, he had his own idea that no, I must give the full truth, though full truth is not just the words, but a lot more. For instance, when she had made a remark about somebody, you have to see a thing, you have to see in totality. Also, there are a lot of personal interjections, footnotes, and toward the end, a whole remark in the agenda, which obviously makes it more like a personal notes added to the mother's conversation. So that is why sometimes people ask, I won't use the word controversy. I would simply say it's a different set of writing. Those who want to read it can read it, but my only word is read the 18 volumes first. This is my suggestion. I read it like that. After finishing all the volumes of Sri Aurobindo, all the volumes of the mother, that time volume 17 and 18 had not come. Then I read the agenda and I waited 30 years, so 73, 83, 90, 2003. But I couldn't wait till then. 1995, I saw it somewhere and I started reading. It's also a diamond mine. But diamond mine where many things have been mixed. So this is the whole set of writings and conversation. But in addition, there is another set of conversations of the mother. which have not seen, much of it has not seen the light of the day, and we are still waiting. And these are with Huta. So with Huta, there is a whole set of her comments on Sri Aurobindo's Savitri. And there was a time when I asked her, and I'm sure several people asked her, Utadi, why don't you publish it? Because this is something amazing. But for whatever reason, it only the first 5 cantos have come, and some other later on. But much of it is held back. Now, I have no reason, logic, and there is no idea of any controversy, but I am just stating facts so that people know there are many more writings. But then she did publish some of those writings which you don't find in either agenda or collected works, like her correspondence with mother, bits and pieces, inner, the story of a soul, where we find her communication. Because Huta was the recipient of maximum letters from the mother. So you can imagine. Like Dilip Kumar Roy was the recipient of maximum letters from Sri Aurobindo. So in Sri Aurobindo's writings, you'll find that there are things which are not there, which were with, I think in the latest CWSA, they have incorporated. But Huta's writings are still there because they are part of the trust which she had formed, and they are there in cold storage. But they are a marvel because Savitri. Then there are other such writings, other such conversations. Like now, slowly, Mona they are brought out in the last decade or something, or a little more, which should have come out much earlier. But there, we don't know if there are more. So there may be other sadhaks, we don't know, with whom, because mother was freely giving. So there again, like benedictions, blessings of the grace, supreme, they are not part of collected works or agenda. And they are wonderful. Supreme is a book which is amazing. And there are conversations with the disciple. Now, I don't know where are the tapes and all that, and who jotted down and what, but it's one can reasonably say that from knowing from her conversation that yes, this is her words. So this is another set of writings. Similarly, there is a wonderful book called White Roses, which is wonderful, which has been to Huta. There is another very interesting book, and this too was given to Huta. It came out once as a golden book of the mother. So she would write every day something from one of the great teachers. Sri Ramakrishna says so, Buddha says so, Sri Aurobindo says so, and they are all in her writings, all with her writing and signed by her. And there's so many of them. I mean, whole year she was writing and sending. So this again you will not find part of the collected works. And though they are not, mother has said so. But then mother picked up from a host of writings from ancient Greek, Egyptian, Indian mystics, Sri Aurobindo. It's something amazing. So then there are letters written to, now they are coming up. They are now volume 18, 17 contains to different departments. And I think over a period of time more will come. This is what my feeling is, because she wrote many letters. The beauty of these letters are short, sweet, simple, and direct to the point. They touch the core. So this is about these volume till volume 11. Now volume 12 consists of her writings on education, which has a little interesting history. It seems Pranabda asked Mother, all this is fine for those who are on the path of yoga, all that you have spoken. What about those who don't talk about God, who don't want to know about, they are afraid of the G word, God, divine, all that. So, something about them, how do they walk the path? So it seems her writings on education were part of that. So that anybody, anywhere could pick them up. Now, obviously, it's not a ready to do practice, but she puts in a language. That language is different. It's a little impersonal, little bit, you'll see it like reaching out to people who may not believe in God or divine, and yet they have the urge for progress. So volume 12 contains her writings on education, her writings, some of her conversations with people in Auroville. So it's a very interesting on India, very fascinating book. Then volume 13 is about herself, Sri Aurobindo, the ashram. All those letters which are connected, notes connected with that. And then of course volume 14, 15 are notes Some are like, what are the gods? Mother, who am I? So she'll give a short reply that the divine in many disguises. So that I remember. Some of her beautiful notes or writings, I am with you. So she speaks about, what it means when I write to somebody, I am with you. So somebody asks, Mother, when you write blessings, what does it mean? She would say, my blessings mean that they will take you through the shortest path to the divine. It does not necessarily mean that things will become easy for you. So those little things, and they're full of that. These notes in volume 14, 15, and 16, 17, 18 are specific disciples, like somebody working in the farm, somebody who is a teacher in the center of education. And there we will see what detailed care she has poured. For instance, the manager who is taking the bullocks, and she says that Sri Aurobindo looked and said, the bullock is more receptive than the person who is managing it. So, those wonderful things. So these are, I would say, often I advise, people ask, which book should I start reading Mother and Sri Aurobindo with? And they often put a question like The Life Divine or The Synthesis of Yoga. I would say read the Mother. So, everything that is there in these volumes is here. Except that it's in a way which is like you receive it from the heart, like to a child. So sometimes very profound truths she has put in very simple words. So I would normally say that read the Mother. And then at some point you want to read Sri Aurobindo, you can go on. And also because it's more complete in a certain sense, because aspects of yoga post 1956, also many things happened after 56, which people don't know or don't speak about. For instance, what happened in 1962, what happened in 1967, what happened in 1972, her new body, all this you will not find anywhere else. So read the Mother. And if you cannot read the Mother, one word advice which Nalnida once gave. Much later in the ashram theatre, he was asked to say a few words. He was the disciple whom we can say Manas Putra of Sri Aurobindo. And intellectually, if anyone really understood Sri Aurobindo, it is said that he is the one who understood Sri Aurobindo. And he has his own set of writings, 8 volumes, which I must say in the passing, they are a good companion reading material for those who are interested. Wonderful, very interesting writing. They also flow very beautifully. And he stood up, he went to the stage, this I think is late 70s or something like that. And he just stood up, waited silent for a moment, and then he simply said, love the Mother. And he came down. So, read the Mother. If you cannot read the Mother, love the Mother. If I can't love the Mother, love is a very big word. We don't know how to love it. Human being, how to love the Mother? Of course, we all say, I love the Mother. Till ... So, Sri Aurobindo has given us a remedy even for that. And that remedy is, he says, remember or know that the Mother loves you and you are hers. Know that the Mother loves you and you are hers. Base your life on this one single advice. To another Bengali sadhika, Sri Aurobindo has written, the Mother is the destination, the Mother is the path. If you find her, you find everything. And that's why no wonder he placed the Mother in front. And so many of these things, a vast world of love, which has taken the form of words. With Sri Aurobindo, you feel it is light and compassion, which has taken the form of words. With Mother, you feel it's love, which is expressing through words. So when someone asks the Mother, Mother, what is it in your writings that it carries such a deep impact? Many people may say the same thing. You may say something which sounds very similar. For instance, to choose without preference, execute without desire. So, people will say, yes, it's from the Gita. though it's a little different. But anyways, so there are many things in a writing. Who are you? The divine in many disguises. But what is it that carries such a deep impact? What is it that you put in your writings? And she wrote in one word, consciousness. So, reading writings of the mother or the collected volumes of the mother, they change us. One of the places where a disciple asked that Sri Aurobindo emphasizes about opening to the mother. So, how to open to you? They are asking the mother. Sri Aurobindo writings, if you see after 27, open to the mother, become receptive to the mother. It's okay. How do I open to the mother? So the disciple asked that, when I read your books, does it help me in opening to you? She says, yes. When I think of you, does it help in opening? Yes. When I remember your name, does it help in opening? Yes. When we talk about your life, she says, dangerous. Her life is, it's much easier, frankly, to write about and talk about Sri Aurobindo's life. But mother's life is so many-sided. Painting, music, even philosophy. A number of her writings have been lost. Philosophical writings. Her visions, which were published earlier in Cosmic Review, Max Theon's, her Algerian Guru Master's journal, which used to come out. And they are all lost. And the mother didn't bother about it. Some of her paintings which were published which were put up in Dube, she didn't care about bringing them back. And even poetry she has written. And she laughingly says at the age of 15 she would get into trance, once walk and write poetry. Nalnida once he said very a bit hesitatingly that at one point of time I should take a lot of interest in philosophical things. So Nalnida says, I understood. This was her way of telling me, don't think, being philosophical or intellectual, you are somebody big, great. And then he realized it, understood. And you'll see it when we read something about time, space, configuration, about the world. So my God, it speaks how she can make avatar, overmind, supermind. You wonder, it's so easy like that. The new body, what it will be like this? What is the future? And another very interesting aspect of the mother's writings is lot of to-do things, practice. Those who want to know practice. Sri Aurobindo also gives practice. But with the mother, we see them very, very straight, direct. For instance, one of them is stepping back. Another is where she says that what she used to do, project every night on on a screen, all the activities of the day. And she would see that where all things are not in tune with her core aspiration. So she would shift them, organize them, reorganize them. It's writing her own life story. Spiritual story, when you see what is not in line, what is not in tune. And plenty of her own personal examples which help us to connect so beautifully. So the mother's writings, this what is her very broad overview. As I said, they are a must read, not just as companions. I would say if you have read the mother's collected works, you have read all that is needed in Sri Aurobindo's yoga. Nothing more really is needed. And except for Savitri. Savitri is unique, and the mother herself spoke about it, that is the mantra of transformation. So Savitri is a must. Of course, all writings of Sri Aurobindo. I am not being partial towards Mama, but but I am just saying that people find it difficult to read. So that's why. First read the mother's collected works, volume 18 volumes. Then, or simultaneously go on, but make it like, ye to karna hi karna hai. This is something which is a must. Another very interesting aspect, the last thing about mother's writings and her conversations especially, that they are recorded. This is again something unique. Now, why recording is something unique? Because when we read, we give the stress by our mind automatically. It's a thing. Like there are people who will read the Mother first chapter and they get, oh, what is Sri Aurobindo saying? Do not imagine that truth and falsehood. But this is not the way he is saying. He is a perfect gentleman. He is rather like a father. Do not imagine that truth and falsehood can stay together. It's a different thing. So when we hear Mother's writings, only thing is they are in French, except a few which are in English. But they are in French. But I would say that even if you don't understand French, just hearing them is a marvel. It doesn't matter. It's like, I feel that it's, if Amrit from the heavens, somebody was to drink Amrit, and then, after that Amrit has filled the whole system, and then speaks that Amrit, that Ananda, what it would be like. That is the feeling I get whenever I have heard Mother's writings. It's like one doesn't bother about what is the meaning about it. Many ways it's an advantage that when you don't know French, you enjoy the notes, you enjoy the tones. Sometimes her laughter, it's just amazing. Like a little child, she's laughing. Which is, when she's in 70s. Suddenly, obviously I don't even want to try to reproduce. But suddenly she burst into laughter like a little child, filled with wonder. So this is another big advantage, that these conversations are also available. Most of them are also available in the form of tapes, audio tapes. Even the even agenda is available on tapes. So at least one good thing is that you can, hear a voice. Then there are a number of her, since we are at Mother's tapes, some of the poetry she has read, Savitri, there's an entire range. There's a whole set of tapes with Sunil Das music where Mother has read the passages. She has not read all the passages, but whatever she has read, it is the best way to understand how to read Savitri, and they are so powerful and beautiful. So this is the Mother, her collected works. We will now, next class, will take up volume 1. Maybe some of them will need 3-4 classes, because I want to enjoy and carry on till maybe 2-3 years, and some maybe just 1 or 2 class depending, because it's not just about the work, but also we'll try to take out selections like we did with Sri Aurobindo's writings. Thank you. So there is a question based on the conversation just now, the writings of overview of the writings and conversations of the Mother. So one is the sequence. Actually, the Mother has said both about Sri Aurobindo and her writings. They should be read by the subject. So it is so true, and that's why we see the Mother takes up in her conversations something from Sri Aurobindo. Let's say the chapter on the triple transformation, and it goes on like that, or something from the Mother. She has actually followed that way. Something from her prayers and meditations. So with her writings, it becomes easy that it's subject-wise. So often one can combine, say you read the Life Divine, and there are chapters which have been, people have asked questions to the Mother, and she has her conversations, and I wish one day they publish it also like that, some of her conversations. They were available at some point of time, but now I don't find them. The WAC had published it. As to the sequence, yes, it depends on what one is looking for. One is that read them one by one, which has its own beauty. Those who want to take up this path, want to take up yoga, because in her writing there are plenty of things which are not necessarily meant that it's not necessary that you have to walk integral yoga and therefore read it. It's true in Sri Aurobindo's writings also. So with Mother's writing, there are plenty of guidance, say on sleep, on food, on education. You don't have to be walking on the path. Though frankly, because they have come from a yogic consciousness, they cannot be fully implemented unless you, some way or the other, are connected with the journey. But those who are walking on the path, volume 1 and 3 are the first books to be read. because volume 1 is prayers and meditations are, we'll talk about it and we'll see. And volume 3, as I said, is like a brief compendium of what the yoga is about. Right from the beginning, it sets everything right. Then to those who want to know general things, that okay, we want to know what is astrology, what are the gods, is there a truth in palmistry, how to sleep, plenty of questions. So volume 4, 5, 6, 7. Those who want to know what happened on 1956 and after, because they have heard the word supermind, supramental manifestation. Then volume 8, 9, 10, 11. Then of course, as I said, 12, then 13. So depends on the query. Like if one wants to know about the ashram, what the ashram stands for, how is it managed, how is it organized, about Sri Aurobindo's symbol, mother's symbol, the center of education symbol, then volume 13 is wonderful. Auroville, plenty of talks which are very interesting. You'll find in these volumes toward the later. So this all depends on the approach. Otherwise, randomly one can pick anything. There's no problem that way. But that is how I proceeded from volume 1 to, I kept reading in sequence. Not with Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo I read the major works, then went on to volume 1 onwards. But with Mother, I suppose, and they are very easy to read. Many of the agenda, personally I read while traveling in bus from Bangalore to Pondicherry and back. So it was my favorite thing to pick up one of the volumes and read throughout. So much so that the bus conductor had come to know that he likes to read. So those were days when mobile was not there. So he would keep one of the lights on above my this thing to make sure I read it. I would just thank him. It's the same bus you're traveling, they know you. It's so easy to read. What I'm trying to say is that they are so easy and simple to read. So this about which volume to start with. Sheet Sagar, start any which way, anywhere, start. And about who has compiled them, well, we have a department in the ashram called Sri Aurobindo Archives, Ashram Archives, and the people there have done it. Now, I don't know what is the way, but a few things which I am aware of. The aware of is that many of our writings to sadhaks, and that's why you see that some of these things continue. Even Sri Aurobindo's letters, plenty of new letters came up. So when some sadhaks gave, when there was an effort to bring together, so 72, so many sadhaks gave their letters, that they belong to ashram, and so thanks to them that. But many didn't give because partly some felt they are too personal. And for whatever reason, I know still that there are letters which they have not been given. I have actually seen with someone, written to a person. And it's okay. So there are letters outside also, by the way, Sri Aurobindo's letters. So now these letters, when the sadhak went to Sri Aurobindo Lok, I don't want to say Sri Aurobindo Dham because this is actually a place. They're very interesting. That place, Sri Aurobindo Dham, is next to Vanprastha Ashram. So, it makes logical sense on the Tat of Kaveri, which is Dakhin Ganga. But anyways, those after they departed, and those who depart in this yoga, I not just believe it, I have reasons to believe it. They don't go to the realm of death and through the normal process, whatever is a normal process. They go to Sri Aurobindo's Lok in the subtle physical world. What they do there, they have work there also. They are given work, different kinds of works. Anyway, let me not get into that area. But when they go to Sri Aurobindo's Lok, this bundle of letters were found. So whenever such things are found, they were sent to the trustees. From there they go to the archives. And then they do the sorting out, deciphering the letters. It's a very painstaking process. There's no doubt about it because, especially Sri Aurobindo's, some of these writings, when you read, one can see that Himalaya and Atlantic are pouring together. And when you see the writing, it looks like, hand is unable to cope up with what is pouring inside. can see it's so fast, and it's not easy to read some of these words. At one point, there is a famous joke where Niruddha asks him that, "Sir, what did you write here in one of his letters?" He said, how do you expect me to read my own handwriting? So I don't know. How do you expect me to read my own handwriting? Because now, that is written in a stress of inspiration and Mahaganga flowing from the supermind. So, but these truths, they are words which are with mother's writings also, especially toward the later part. It's sometimes difficult. So they've done a very painstaking job with a lot of modern things, and they have seen, and it's a and preserving those manuscripts in the cold storage. So a lot of work has gone on there, leaving aside whatever people may speak, but as some of them really very genuine, hard people who have worked hard to preserve the manuscript, because they have to be kept for posterity in the cold storage, and then one by one to read them, decipher them, check, cross-check, background check. They pass through many hands, and then they are finally compiled. Now, obviously, when they are compiled, certain titles here and there, somehow with Sri Aurobindo's writings, you can feel you wish they were compiled little differently. But honestly, with mother's writings, you don't feel that. So I don't know who has done it. My own feeling is, I may be wrong, that mother's writings have been done by a different set of people. This is just a feeling. Because you can see a different, the order, the logic, everything flows so smoothly. But with Sri Aurobindo's, not SABCL, but CWSA, at times you feel, why are these letters put here and why not these things may come. But with SABCL, it was flowing very smoothly. But with mother's writings, it's a really wonderful work which has been done. That's all I can say. Okay, thank you.